What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another car review. This is of course the 2018 Lexus LS 500 F Sport all-wheel drive. Huge thanks to Lexus for providing me with this beautiful LS to review for you guys today. So about the all-new LS, well, completely restyled here for 2018, all new, and man, I think it's a really impressive look. I mean, obviously, you know, it's a large, full-size sedan, but it's just really up front there. You have the typical Lexus grille, which looks very good in this application. With the F Sport, you have kind of like the blacked-out chrome trim around the grille there. It looks very good. I love these headlights too. I think they're so futuristic looking, but still also very beautiful and artful in a way to me. I don't know, I just really love the way those look. And this whole vehicle, you know, although the front end looks very bold, once you get down to the sides here, it's really elegant and slinky and just really just a curvy, really beautiful shape to me. I mean, you have this, you know, these fenders that kind of bulge over a little bit as the hood dips down. Just really cool details you don't see on large full-size, you know, luxury sedans. Going down further to the sides here, you can just see more lines that kind of curve as they go down towards the trunk area there. Just a very attractive profile to me. I love the way that it looks. Going out back there, you have some very attractive looking taillights as well, which have the cool complex LED elements within them that, you know, makes it look very futuristic. And otherwise, just, you know, a nice traditional trunk area, and you know, you have some real exhaust tips there in the bumpers, which are nicely finished off. And so overall, I think it's just a really good looking vehicle that, you know, while some of the other competitors are very conservative and kind of play it safe, I think this takes a little bit more of a risk with its styling, but I think that it really paid off because I think it really makes it look a lot more distinct than a lot of the competitors out there. And overall, I think it's just a really good looking design. Right, so the interior of the 2018 Lexus LS, well, it is just a visual and tactile delight. This interior is so nice. So anyway, first thing, sitting down in these seats, you have these very nice F Sport specific seats. A lot of the stuff in this interior is F Sport specific. If you go for a non-F Sport Lexus LS, then it's going to be a little bit more comfortable, not quite as sporty. But these seats are fantastic. I love, you know, they have the perforations in them. They're a lighter color, so it kind of stands out, a nice little contrast. But these seats, you can see the little bit of Alcantara you have on them. Again, that is only because of the F Sport version, otherwise they'd be full leather. But they're really great seats. They're fully adjustable, they're climate controlled seats, they're heated and cooled, and you can adjust the bolstering both for the torso and for the thighs. So you can have it as loose or as tight as you want, which I love. So you can have exactly what you want with these seats. And so I have them set up so they're nice and tight and hold me in really well, but are still nice and comfortable, and really, really great seats. The only exclusion I can say is here on the F Sport version, you don't get the massage function that I think is available if you go up to you know, some of the other LSs instead. So that's one thing that would be nice to have the massage function still, even though you are in the sporty one. But otherwise, just really great seats. Next to the steering wheel here in the LS 500 F Sport, which again is F Sport specific, has a little badge here at the bottom, and is definitely a thicker wheel. It's a really nice thickness though. It's pretty beefy. It has nice little 10 and 2 notches, a great 9 and 3 grip. You have nice actual metal paddle shifters here behind the wheel, and then you have these very nice textured buttons here on the front of it, which are just really just a cool different material, and you know, goes great with all the other darker metal finishes you have here. Just a few buttons though, nothing too confusing, and so overall a really great steering wheel. Next to the gauges here, which again in this one are F Sport specific, so you have the same F Sport gauges you see in some of the other you know, Lexus models with this F Sport package. So they're LFA inspired gauges here, with just this simple round tachometer there in the middle, all fully digital though, of course, and then you have your other, you know, little gauges there on the right and the left. And then that also moves around. So if you want to change the settings, you hit this button and it slides over to the right there, and you can change all your vehicle settings and all the safety systems and how they're set up and things like that. But otherwise, it's just very nice and concise, which is again in line with what you want if you're you know, in a sportier mood whenever you're driving your F Sport LS. Again, if you are to go for a regular LS, I think they have more traditional digital gauges, and so those are probably nice as well. But I really like this F Sport setup. The only thing I can say though about the gauges is, again, because we're in the F Sport version, for some reason that means we can't get the heads-up display. I don't even see it on the configurator online as it even being an option for the F Sport version of the LS 500. But if you go for the regular LS 500, it is a largest, I think, in the as far as what's on sale currently, largest heads-up display currently available in a vehicle. I think it's 24 inches, and it's just really cool and very futuristic and very cool. And so I'm a little bummed we don't have it here in this one, but you know, still a really nice interior otherwise, and you know, like I said, these gauges are still really cool. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, this is where it really is more visually striking. I just love everything. It's so artistic about this interior. So, I mean, I love you have these, you know, air vents, which are right beneath this large 12.3-inch infotainment screen, which I'll get to in a second. But these lines that run from the start-stop button all the way through those vents and continue on to the other side of the vehicle is just so cool. You'll also see above that, there's a little illuminated portion, which is just a nice little artistic detail that kind of goes along with the other design themes here going on in this interior. And everything in here is just so different, unique than all the rest out, you know, that's competing against. I mean, even coming over the door area alone. So you have, you know, all these cool stitchings going on. You have this floating center armrest. So where the window switches and stuff are, that all like floats. I mean, it is connected to the door here, but it's, you can actually put your hand through down to the door pocket. It's just completely independent and just a really cool thing that I've never seen on a car interior before, and I really love that. You also have this textured metal up here, which has a really cool feel to it, and you know, also just visually interesting, and you know, interesting to the touch as well. And so all those things just make this a very exciting interior to be in. But anyway, getting back to this infotainment system, so you have a little Lexus analog clock there on the left, and then a 12.3-inch display, which is a really nice large widescreen display. It's the same setup as any other Lexus. If you ever you know, seen any of my other reviews or, you know, use this Lexus infotainment system, it's all the same. You know, the maps are a little outdated compared to a lot of the competitors, which have really futuristic maps and navigations. This is more on the basic side there, but you know, gets the job done. Nice to have a map nonetheless. And you have your satellite radio streaming, all that type of stuff in here. Unfortunately, no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. I'm hoping, since they announced for the 2019 ES that's going to have CarPlay, I hope that the 2019 LS will also get CarPlay, although unfortunately Android Auto users seem to still be left out in the cold with no you know, Toyota or Lexus vehicles getting Android stuff, only the Apple stuff for 2019. But here in this one doesn't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, since we're in a 2018 here, which is a sore exclusion again, but you know, some of the competitors have it, some of them don't. But anyway, you know, still a really great infotainment system nonetheless. You just use this little touchpad, which I've gotten used to after driving several Lexuses with it now. You know, I think it's about as easy to use as any of the controller wheels. I still think a touchscreen would be easier, but I think this is still a pretty great solution that Lexus has here for that. Coming down, you'll see your climate controls, just a little row of buttons here, very simple, and just a couple little buttons here to have shortcuts for the radio and stuff like that. And then I love this. You have this volume and tune knob, which is combined into one little area here, which is ingenious to me. I love this. So the top part is your actual volume knob, and you turn that, it has a really nice smooth resistance to it that feels great. And then this lower part is the tune knob, and you tune that. It has a nice little notchiness to it at each click, and is great for tuning, and it's all nice and concise right there instead of having to reach over to the other side or having it in some other weird spot. I love that. I honestly wish every single car in the world had this set up for volume and tune. I think that is really a cool solution, and kudos to Lexus for creativity and coming up with a really cool solution for that. Otherwise, you have a CD drive down here beneath that, and that's it. Now this one doesn't have also the Mark Levinson upgraded stereo. This has the regular premium audio system, which I've tested a little bit, and so far sounds pretty good. But you can get a 23 speaker Mark Levinson surround sound system with 2,400 watts, which is just crazy. And again, wish this one had that to test, but unfortunately it doesn't. But anyway, still, you know, going to be enjoyable listening to this premium audio system. And then coming down, you have again that Lexus controller pad. Then you have a button shortcut for going into your seat control, since there isn't any physical seat controls for heating and cooling of the seats. That's all with that nice shortcut, which is great. And so overall, just, you know, a few buttons, but a very nice and simple interior. As far as storage space here in the LS, it's pretty good. Not the best, but pretty good. So first off, in the doors here, you have a large map pocket. It doesn't really have any kind of bottle holder cutout. You might be able to squeeze one in if it's small, but you know, just a normal pocket there. So a little disappointing over there. Coming over to the center area here, you have this little like tiny slot in between the CD drive and where the gear shifter is, but you know, very, very small. And then you have this little cover for your two cup holders, which strangely has the power outlet built into there as well, which I mean is a creative place to put it. But you know, in a place where you often have liquid and things spilling or, you know, getting wet, having your power outlet in that area, to me, isn't the greatest idea. It, of course, has a cover over it, but if that cover wasn't on, you know, just not sure if that's the greatest place for that, but good cup holders there nonetheless. And then you have the center armrest, which is really nice and softly padded with a very rich leather that is nice and soft. And a cool thing is you can open it up here, you know, this way for the driver's side, you know, like usual, but there's a button for the passenger side so they can get into it. It opens the other way, which is really cool, and I think most front seat passengers will really appreciate this instead of having to, you know, contort their neck in order to, you know, see what's in here if it opens up the other way, like in a lot of other, you know, vehicles where it only opens one way. So really cool that opens both ways. But anyway, whenever you open that up, you'll see a little tray here up top. It's very shallow. You'll see another little tray that you can slide forwards and backwards or remove. And then you have a fairly deep cubby here. It's not super deep, but it is pretty long. You also find a power outlet and 2 USB jacks and an auxiliary jack in there. So great to have that, and that's a large amount of space, so I think you'll be able to fit most of the stuff you want to fit in there. But it would be nice to have some type of open cubby up front, since a lot of you know, other vehicles seem to have that these days. So you know, everything's very covered up, all the little cubbies and stuff, which is fine. But overall, you know, still a pretty good amount of storage space. Backseat space in the LS here is really nice and luxurious. So I'm 5'9", me sitting behind myself, I have about 5 to 6 inches of legroom to spare, so very nice and spacious, and you know, plenty of headroom as well. And it's a really soft, comfortable back seat. You sit nice and low in that back seat as well, so it really kind of coddles you there and cocoons you, I guess. But other things about the back seat. Now, this one isn't the fully loaded up back seat. You can get like an executive package, which has massage and all that type of stuff for that rear seat there. Unfortunately, this one doesn't have any of those features, but it's still a very comfortable back seat. You'll see an air vent there on the left side of each passenger, you know, towards the doors there, and then you also see air vents in the middle, which is great, and a power outlet beneath that. And then you have that fold down center armrest, which has you know, nice soft padding to it, and then you can open that up and you will see 2 USB jacks in there as well, and a nice large cubby. You also see a couple controls, you know, to move this passenger front seat forward if you need more legroom. Otherwise, though, you have just 2 cup holders that spring out of the front of that. I wish there were some nicer cup holders though, instead of those little pop-out ones, because those are the only cup holders in the back there. There aren't any bottle holders in the doors or anything like that. Not super feature packed in that regard, but you do even have like mirrors in the ceilings, which is very cool, again, for the luxury feel. And so overall, I would say it's still a very nice back seat. Trunk space in the LS is also really great. Has a really nice wide opening to the trunk there, and it's pretty wide in the first part of the trunk there, but as you get towards the back of the trunk, it gets a little more narrow there, and so I think it might be a little bit smaller in that regard than some of the competitors, which just have a nice wide space that goes all the way back. This kind of, you know, gets a little skinnier there, but overall still a really large and useful trunk, and so good space there. All right, so start to go for a drive. The LS here is a very nice weighty key to it, one of the nicer Lexus keys here with actual metal on it and a nice textured vinyl or leather finish, one or the other, but a really great key here. And of course, it's keyless access, keyless entry, push button start. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. All right, so setting off in the 2018 Lexus LS 500 F Sport. So the first thing you notice, I think it's probably going to have to be the great visibility you have here in the LS. You know, you have a dashboard that comes up a little bit higher, but you have a really nice large windshield that feels pretty close to you as well. So really good view forward. You have nice thin A-pillars as well, and the side mirrors kind of go out far enough away, so there isn't any kind of blockage there by the A-pillar. So that's really great. You have nice large side windows, and view out of the back is also pretty good as well. Another thing that I noticed right off the bat is just how quiet it is in here. I mean, we're at low speeds here, but actually a funny thing, while I was filming all the interior shots here, I didn't even notice it until I got out of the vehicle a few minutes later, but there was someone who was using a power washer about 50 yards away, and I didn't even hear them at all sitting inside this vehicle. Didn't even have the radio on or anything. And then once I got out, I was like, wow, there's a loud power washer going on there, and I didn't even hear it. So I think it's very well insulated in here. It's pretty impressive. Other things here, it has a pretty responsive throttle. It loves going into this eco mode though. If you ever, back off of the throttle, and then that makes it a little sluggish to respond, and makes it a little confused with the transmission and stuff. But still is fairly responsive. Nice metal pedals here, which are exclusive to the F Sport as well. And brake feel is pretty good too. It's a nice progressive pedal, so it has a good amount of travel to it before it really starts biting hard. It makes it, it's very appropriate for a luxury vehicle like this, so you can have nice smooth stops. But we'll go ahead and put this up into the Sport Plus mode, and let's turn down onto this back road here and see how it does. And here we go. Wow, that was like a 2-second delay. Now it takes off. And then it takes off. Wow, so a very good amount of power here. We have in the new LS 500 F Sport the 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 engine, not a V8 for the LS 500. Twin turbo V6 does 414 horsepower though, and 442 pound-feet of torque, so plenty of power, and gets this vehicle up and going 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. So no slouch whatsoever. I mean, those are very impressive numbers, especially considering how heavy this vehicle is. This one weighs just under 5,000 pounds at like 49.82, I believe. So it is heavy. So I mean, for this engine, I mean, those aren't massive numbers, but for it to still do 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds is really impressive. I think part of that is helped by the fact that we have the 10-speed automatic transmission, a similar one, I believe, to the LC 500. Which should definitely help, with those shifts being nice and quick and responsive. It feels very sporty here in Sport Plus mode. It's not quite as extreme as the Sport Plus tuning and some of the other Lexus F Sport models here, but it does keep it right in the middle of the power, and we're holding right around 3,000 RPMs. Yeah, it moves this thing really assertively. I really like the way that it feels. It's not extreme or wild, I don't think, but it's a very smooth and refined 4.6 seconds 0 to 60. Other things to note here, well, we can actually go ahead and put it into the manual mode here and see how this 10-speed auto does with its manual shifts. Again, we're in Sport Plus mode. Just about immediate. Very quick upshifts. I'd say it's almost as quick as it is in the LC 500. Maybe even almost identical. It's almost immediate. It's a really good 10-speed. I think this 10-speed is better than some people even give it credit for. That is a new development here for Lexus. It is a really great transmission, and I like it a lot. Other things to note though, while we're back in normal mode here, it has a nice and smooth ride as well. I wouldn't say that it's buttery smooth. It's not, like you can still feel the road, and I think that's again part of the setup for this F Sport version is that it's a little bit on the sportier side of the large luxury sedan spectrum, so it's not going to feel too floaty or soft, but it is still a very refined and luxurious ride that's appropriate for the LS. But as we're coming up some corners here, let's see how the handling is here back in the Sport Plus mode. And hey, it handles itself pretty well. There is a little bit of a push just because of the weight, I think, but actually this is really nice and buttoned down. It really feels pretty sharp. It also has a very nice steering feel to it. That's not too heavy or too light. It's just right for a sporty luxury sedan. I think that is really well done. So the tire setup, I think, is what really helps the way this thing handles. So we have 20-inch wheels all around, and there are 245 wide tires in the front, 275s in the rear, pretty thin sidewalls too. I believe they're 45 series sidewalls in the front and 40 series in the rear. And they're Bridgestone Turanzas. I think they are like actual summer tires. Although they're more on the luxurious side, they're not super aggressive tires or anything, but they just grip really well. There isn't any kind of squirm or anything. It just kind of really does a good job of tucking its nose in and going. This one also has the all-wheel drive, so there might be a little bit of torque vectoring or something going on there. And now this transmission in Sport Plus is like, hey, you're going around these corners pretty quickly. Let's give you some downshifts. It's kind of picking up on the fact that I might be driving in an enthusiastic manner, which is appreciated. Yeah, this thing, all right, so even around that corner there, I gave it a little bit of throttle and the traction control lit up there. So it can break that back end loose. If you want to turn some of the nannies off, you could. So it's a very dynamic feeling large luxury sedan, and even though it is probably the heaviest in its class, at least that I think I've seen, it does a really good job. So that weight doesn't really hurt you or hinder you. It's not quite as bad as I was expecting it to be, honestly, as far as the weight goes. But it still isn't quite as effortless around corners as some of the competitors. Now, I haven't driven a ton of the competitors, but one of the ones that is the most closely competing in my mind is the Cadillac CT6 3-liter twin turbo, and that is about 800 pounds lighter. That one's just barely over, I think, 4,100 pounds, and so that felt a lot more effortless in its handling than this does. This, you can tell there's that weight there. It's working with you through it. Now in this regular sport mode too as well, it's a lot more progressive. The Sport Plus mode really expects you to drive like your hair's on fire. This one in the regular sport mode is just a little more chill, but still very sporty, just very responsive. Throttle response gets sharper. You still have that great steering weight, and it feels really good. I'm just so impressed with the way this thing, I think it's just those wheels and tires really make a good difference as well. And just like that, we've caught up to traffic. So this thing is a very, very good hustler on back roads here. So yeah, I'm impressed with the handling, and like I said, I'm impressed whenever I'm just cruising around and driving. But thanks to Lexus, I'm going to have the LS 500 here for an entire week, so I'm going to drive around all week, see what it's like to live with, and I'll come back and give you guys my final real-world fuel economy, as well as my thoughts on the pricing and any other things that I noticed throughout my week of driving. Alright, so I've been driving the 2018 Lexus LS 500 F Sport all-wheel drive for a week now, and it's a really nice thing to cruise around in, of course. It is just so luxurious, and just feels really solid too, because of that additional weight that it has over some of the competitors. It might not help in the corners, but it certainly makes for a nice solid feel on the road. Makes it feel very substantial, but it wasn't all awesome. So two small little complaints, only two really that I have. The first is this transmission, whenever you go from reverse to drive, it's really slow to go into drive. And I mean, I wouldn't call it a safety issue or anything, but if you're on a hill and you're reversing and then you go to put it into drive, you better keep your foot on the brake until you actually feel it kind of engage into drive, because there was a couple of times where I was backing out onto a hill, I was in reverse, I put it into drive, and then I let my foot off the brake, hit the gas, and I'm rolling backwards still, and I had to stop the car and then give it a second, and then it went into drive. So it took an unnaturally long time. Again, I don't know if that's just this car or the design of this 10-speed. I will say the 10-speed that I had in the LC 500, now that was a little bit of a different setup since I had the LC 500 hybrid, but on that same hill it never did it in that vehicle. So maybe it's just this one, or maybe it's just the design in the LS. I'm not sure. Just something worth noting. If you do a lot of reversing on hills and things like that, you're going to want to test that out to make sure your vehicle doesn't do that if you're interested in buying one of these. So that's really the only complaint as far as the driving stuff goes. The only other thing is the fuel economy. So I put 195 miles on the vehicle in my week of driving here, and my average was 17.4 mpg over that amount of time. And so my driving was, I would say, primarily highway. I did do a good amount of city, but I would say a larger majority was definitely highway driving. Now these are rated at 18 in the city, 27 on the highway. So I did more highway than city driving, and I didn't even get the city rating. So, not sure why that is. That's even lower than I usually see in press vehicles. I usually am, one or two below the regular MPG that's rated for the city on my test loop here that I do, but it's just kind of surprising that even though I did much more highway cruising, not, fast highway bombing or anything, just highway cruising, and I, couldn't even get to that city number. I'm guessing it's because of the twin turbos here in the F Sport version that, maybe it just makes it a little more thirsty, but I don't know how they get those ratings, considering what I saw here in my week of driving. So, you know, just a little thing to note that, you know, if you're going to get one of these, just prepare. The fuel economy might not be as high as it's predicted. Again, your experience may vary. That's just my experience here of driving. Anyway, those are the only two downsides. Otherwise, like I said, it's really great. And, you know, one of the great things about it is the value you get with the LS here. So, I mean, it's just the interior is a little step above some of the competitors. You know, for example, the Cadillac CT6, I think is the main competitor, because when you look at all the German stuff, those are all way more expensive. So whenever you're comparing the pricing of the German, you know, luxury full-size sedans versus this is the clear winner as far as, you know, value for dollar goes. I mean, it just is really, you know, a well-done package for, you know, much less money than a lot of the German stuff would be comparably equipped. But the primary competitor to this vehicle, I think, is the Cadillac CT6. And when you compare those two, it really comes down to what luxury features are most important to you. So, you know, this car as configured is around $85,000, I would say. There wasn't an actual window sticker given with this one. When I go into the online configurator, it's about $85,000, you know, not have the heads-up display, not have the high-end Mark Levinson stereo, a couple of those other higher features this one doesn't have. So this one is a little less equipped, you know, around $85,000. So I will say this interior is by far much nicer than the CT6 as far as materials and design goes. It's much more visually interesting. Everything is very nicely padded. Everything is just everything feels luxurious. Everything in this vehicle feels like it's a $100,000 car. The Cadillac CT6, some parts are nice. Most of it, I don't think actually feels like a $100,000 car though. And so that is, you know, one of the differences is if you want a really nice, you know, heavy cruiser with really nice, you know, luxury every single inch of the vehicle, feeling luxurious to the touch, this is definitely the clear winner in that regard. But when you go to the CT6, those are also, for the Platinum version, right around $85,000. If you go for the higher performing engine and the all-wheel drive, to make it a fair comparison with this, you'd be around $88,000. So maybe about $3,000 more. But for that $3,000, you get the Cadillac Super Cruise system, which is completely hands-off highway driving on many highways. Again, not all of them. It's not autonomous or anything, but it does do more than this does. This has, you know, the Lexus Safety Suite, which does have the adaptive cruise control, which I tried out. It does work very well, but it's not as advanced as the Cadillac system. So that's one thing. You know, the Cadillac has also, you know, you could get the Mark Levinson stereo in this, which is like 23 speakers. It's a ton of watts, but it still is down from the Bose Panerai system with its 34 speakers, which is just really unbeatable. You know, and also the ease of use. The Cadillac has a touchscreen that's about as large as this screen, but it's touch, it's easier, it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which this does not have. So if you're on the techie side of luxury, then I think the Cadillac would be the better choice. But if you're going for, you know, something that's, you know, more old school luxury, obviously this is still very futuristic in many ways, especially the styling and stuff. But, you know, if you don't mind not having the latest infotainment tech, if you don't mind, you know, not having, you know, like the Cadillac has massage seats, this doesn't have massage seats. You just have heating and cooling in these seats, and so, you know, things like that. If you're just okay with this, you know, normal seats, if you're okay with, you know, normal radio and, you know, those types of things, and just want a really nicely finished vehicle, this is definitely the clear choice in that regard. So again, they're very different in a lot of ways, and so it just comes down to what you want. It's great that there's so many wonderful options out there in this price range, and this is certainly a very compelling option here from Lexus. Another thing that must be mentioned though as well, it's a huge selling point for the Lexus, is its impeccable reliability that, you know, Lexuses have had historically, and their great service experiences. They're always, you know, consistently rated right towards the top there. And so, you know, that's another thing that, you know, comes into play, especially with the German competition and the American competition, is, you know, will those still be going strong in 10 years? This probably will. And so that's something that definitely is worth considering as well for anyone that's, you know, cross-shopping this with other vehicles in its class. You know, the Lexus is definitely going to be the one, I think, if I were a betting man, that, you know, is going to hold up the best over the long term, and also probably hold its value better than a lot of the others as well. So anyway, huge thanks to Lexus for providing me with the LS500 here to review for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.